It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Curacao. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go! Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 30 on the players of the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup. This episode covers Curacao's players. Just a note on where we're at in our mediacast. So Series 21 to 27 dealt with World Cup 2026 qualifying. Series 21, for example, is covering the Asian region, and we actually did preview the preliminary round there. We were hoping to do more previewing for the 2026 World Cup, but life got busy. Nevertheless, we still have hopes of covering it, but now we'll have to do it mostly through reviews. So the past, present, and future media cast that we produced in the spring of 2024 is still relevant. It outlines the World Cup 2026 qualifying procedure for each region, and we will add a link to that in the media cast. We will add a link in the show notes to that media cast. And we will come back then to World Cup 2026 qualifying, but we'll do that after our current focus, which is the 2025 Gold Cup, and this episode on Curacao's players. So we're doing this media cast in two parts. Part one here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. To the final squad, that is. We examined the participation of players in games over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors, and we categorized them into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seemingly off the squad. We'll go into more detail on the players that we think likely to reach the final squad, a bit of biographical information, and then less detail, perhaps even just the names of players unlikely to get there. Part two will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad is selected. That'll probably be in early June. And at that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries, surprise selections, and our predicted starters. So this episode has three sections. In section one, we will look at some general information on the team. Section 2, we cover the main candidates in each position. And Section 3, we summarize and conclude, especially focusing on injuries to keep an eye on. So let's begin. I'm just going to make my screen a bit bigger here for the YouTube watchers. There it is, really big. Woo! Okay, let's take a look at some players who are off the team. I do have the title retirements, but we want to expand it a bit more to kind of bigger names that no longer seem to be on the team and we can't really expect to see in this cup. So most of these are still active at the club level. The first one is Javaro Nepomuceno. We won't go into a lot of biographical information there, but he was part of their three Gold Cup appearances in 2017, 2019, and 2021. They didn't actually play in 2021. They had to withdraw because too many players had COVID, but he was selected for all those, a starter in the first two of those, but last appeared for the team in June of 2023. The next one has been retired or retired from the international team a bit longer, and certainly not a veteran. We're kind of stretching the qualifications here, but we do want to mention him because he too was selected for all three of those Gold Cups. Oh my goodness, I haven't mentioned his name. It's Ayrton Stati, a left back. And he is still playing at the club level, involved in all three Gold Cups there, and last appeared for the national team in September of 2022. The third player of four here is Michael Maria. Again, not really a veteran, but part of those or selected for the squad in all three of those Gold Cups. And he last appeared in 2022. Michael Maria. The last one, Cuco Martina, actually not really off the team. He does have an outside chance of making it here. He too was part of all three of those Gold Cup squads, and he was captain of the team. He's been with Curacao since 2011, so the most legitimate veteran among these with 65 caps. But he is unattached to any club since July of 2024 and was not selected for any of the last 6 matches. So Cuco Martina, possible but unlikely candidate to make the squad there. All right, let's move on to the next order of business here. The games that Curacao has been involved in and that we're looking at in terms of their participation. So for the player participation, we're going back to the beginning of 2023, and we'll tell you how many involvements they've had since then. But in terms of the team, these are the games that we're looking at, and will be significant when we look at the positions of the players. That's actually in part 2. But I'll go through it quickly. So they did not qualify for the 2023 Gold Cup, and in fact, their manager was released after that. We'll come to that early in section 2 when we look at the history of the manager. But released because of not making the 2023 Gold Cup. They had an interim manager after that. So the first set of games we look at here is the 2023-24 Nations League group stage. And that was from September or in September on October 2023. Curacao doesn't play a lot of friendlies because most of their players are based in the Netherlands, so they don't really fly over to play friendlies, just the main games. But in November of 2023, because they didn't reach the quarterfinals of that 2023-24 Nations League, they played 2 friendlies. They were in November. And I should say the second of those games was quite experimental. Actually, a lot of their starting players did play, but in different positions on the field. It's actually quite interesting to look at. We have one central defender playing as a forward, for example. It was after that that they got a new manager, and the new manager's first set of games was the 2026 World Cup qualifying games in June of 2024. So that's the first round of qualifying for the CONCACAF region. And actually the second set of qualifying games there will come a year later in June of 2025. The last set of games we're going to look at is the 2024-25 Nations League group stage, and that went from September to November, so 6 games in that set, and September to November 2024. They actually did play a friendly in March of 2025. They went to Turkey to play that game. However, we don't have good information on that game. I'm still searching for it, so we're not really going to consider that game as part of the discussion here. So when we look at players, we'll just be going to the end of November in 2024, and then hopefully I'll find better information than I have. We will include it in part 2, and hopefully that will give us a better idea as to who the starters will be when we get to part 2. Anyway, let's move on and talk briefly about formations. So we won't go into detail on this, but generally the 4-2-3-1 is their favorite formation. They use that in 33% of the games over this period. Then they had 4 different formations that they used twice each over the period. And then one time they had a very weird kind of, well, it's not weird. It's a 3-1-2-1-2. More commonly known as a 3-4-3 diamond formation. They used that just once. Let's look at some of the patterns in here, and that's probably more significant. in 80% of the games, it is a four-man defense, so two central defenders with the left back and right back. That means in 20% of the games, we're going to see a three-man central defense with the two left back and right back pushing up. That may be played by the left back and right back, or it may be played by a more offensive player, a midfielder. The other pattern that we want to note is that it's a one-man forward line in 80% of the games. So just a single forward there, and in 20% of the games, it is two forwards. But we don't have any formation with three forwards there. Okay, finally, we'll look at the upcoming games. So these, as I mentioned, are World Cup qualifying, the second set of games, the first having been in June 2024. Now in June 2025, they begin by playing at home to St. Lucia. That's on June 6th. And then the second game away in Haiti. That'll be a tough one. And those will act as their warm-up games going into the 2025 Gold Cup. Okay, that is all the business in section 2. So we move on to all the business in section 1. We move on to section 2 and our look at the candidates, the main business of this mediacast. So let's begin by talking about the managers. I'll first just kind of introduce the names that we're looking at. And the current manager is Dick Advocaat there. And prior to him, we have Dean Gore, and then Remco Bisentini. So let me give a little narrative. Well, first of all, I'll cover information just for the current manager here, Dick Advocaat. So a well-known international manager is Dick Advocaat. Began managing in 1981 and has managed some various international teams, getting them to tournaments. So we have Netherlands. He managed the Netherlands, he managed South Korea, UAE, Serbia, and actually several stints with the Netherlands there, and currently with Curacao. So that could be a long discussion. His first tournament, for example, was the World Cup in 1994. So he stretches all the way back there and has been involved in several tournaments since. We won't go into detail on Dean Gore and Remco Bisentini, but we will talk about them in the summary of the position, which we'll launch into now. So here's a little history of the managerial situation. Guus Hiddink, together with Patrick Kluivert, were set to manage them through the 2021 Gold Cup, the last one that they qualified for. However, they had to withdraw because too many of their players came down with COVID, so they were replaced by, I believe it was Trinidad and Tobago in the tournament. Kluivert is now manager of Indonesia. After those two, it was Art Langeler. He took over for just 3 months in 2022. And then in August of that year, Remco Bisentini took over in August of 2022. It was his second stint managing Curacao, and he lasted until July 2023. Really, the story or recent story begins here. He was released after they failed to qualify for the 2023 Gold Cup. They were knocked out in the playoffs by lowly St. Kitts and Nevis, so a bit embarrassing, really. Dean Gore took charge after that until January of 2024, and actually Gore remains an assistant manager under Dick Advocaat there, and Dick Advocaat took the reins in mid-January 2024. And yeah, I should have made it clear that Dean Gore was just an interim manager there. Dick Advocaat led them to victory in their Nations League B group, and that earned them automatic qualification for this 2025 Gold Cup. So Dick Advocaat in charge, And that's the managerial situation. Let's move on to the players, and we begin with goalkeepers. So we'll begin by just listing the players here. And the first one is a definite candidate, Eloy Room. And then we have two likely candidates in Trevor Doombush and in Nino Fancito. Both of those likely candidates. And finally, we have a possible candidate in Tyrek Bodak. So let's take a look at these players in a bit more detail. Eloy Room has 57 caps for the national team, but he is getting up there in age, 36 years old, and he's been with Curacao since 2015. Like most of the players on Curacao, he was born in the Netherlands, and Eloy Room currently playing for Cercle Bruges in Belgium. And he also had a stint in the USA for Columbus Crew from 2019 to 2023. Otherwise, most of his clubs have been in the Netherlands. He was a starting keeper in the 2017 and 2019 Gold Cups, and probably would have been in the 2021 Gold Cup. However, he didn't start all of their games over this period. He started 11 of their 18 games, Eloy Room, from the start of 2023. He was on the bench for one, but not selected for 6 others. So Eloy Room, nevertheless, a definite candidate. The first likely candidate is Trevor Doombush. Excuse me, he is also 36 years old and has been with Curacao just since 2023 with 6 caps and no goals. Trevor Doombush plays for Venlo in Netherlands since 2025 and with Dordrecht in the Netherlands before that. His whole club career has been in the Netherlands, and he too was born there. Trevor Doombush got his first appearance on the bench in March of 2023, and he started 6 of their remaining games, remaining 18 games there. He was on the bench for 9 and not selected for 3 others. The other likely candidate is Nino Fancito. He is at the opposite end of the age scale, just 21 years old, no caps for Curacao there, and he plays for FC Eindhoven. That is not PSV Eindhoven, the bigger club, but the smaller club, FC Eindhoven. And basically, he's been there his whole career, so played for their under-21 team and their youth clubs as well. Fancito got his first appearance on the bench in September of 2023. He didn't start any of the remaining 14 games, but he was on the bench for 13 of them. So just one match that Fancito was not selected for. And so we have him as a likely candidate. And finally, we have possible candidate Tyrek Bodak. He is also quite young, 23 years old. So those two will probably be the goalkeepers going forward. Bodak has been with Curacao since 2021 and has 4 caps for them. He plays for Telstar in Netherlands and with Camber in the Netherlands before that. I don't have it written here whether either he or Fancito were born in the Netherlands, and I'll have to make it a point to actually note whether these players were born in Curacao or the Netherlands. But most of them born in the Netherlands, and these guys played youth clubs in the Netherlands, so at the very least they kind of grew up there. Tyrek Bodak started one of their 18 games from the start of 2023, and he was on the bench for 11, but he was not selected for the last 6 matches, so Bodak a possible candidate. All right, those are the candidates for goalkeeper. They'll probably just bring 3 of them. And in part 2, we'll kind of go over a summary of what has been happening in the position. But in part 1 here, we're just kind of focused on the likelihood of candidates. Let's move on to defenders then. And we do begin with versatile defenders. We have one player in that category. This is a player that's going to be popping up in various positions. So we decided to kind of introduce him at the beginning. It is Sherrell Floranis. He's actually coded as a right back. We're just moving him to versatile defender here. And Sherrell Floranis is a definite candidate here. He is 27 years old, but just with Curacao since 2023, 14 caps and no goals. He was born in the Netherlands and plays for PEC Zwolle in the Netherlands since 2024, and was with his clubs have all been in the Netherlands. His youth kind of came up through the Sparta Rotterdam youth system there. So Sherrell Floranis got his first cap in March of 2024, but he played 13 of their remaining 18 games there. He was injured for one and not selected for 4 matches. So Sherrell Floranis, a definite candidate, and we're going to see him in various positions. Let's move on to the central defense position. So we'll just talk a little bit about the position before we look at the candidates. This is usually a 2-man position in 80% of their games during this period, and then in 20% of the games, or 1 in 5 games, it's a 3-man central defense. Okay, let's look at the players here. We have Jurian Gary as a definite candidate. And we have Roshan Val Ijma as a likely candidate. And just a second here, I have to cough. All right. And then we go right down to the possible but unlikely candidate here, Cuco Martina, who we mentioned in part 1. And then actually, I think, yes, I have been basically introduced and giving whatever information we're going to give on the possible but unlikely candidates as we introduce their names. So I did talk about Cuco Martina a little bit in section 1. But the key point here is that he wasn't selected for the last 6 matches, so looking a bit unlikely. He's also 36 years old, which is kind of older for a defender than it is for a goalkeeper. And then we have seemingly off the squad, Shimar Martin. It looks like 2019 was his last game, so I'm not sure why we have him on the list. I do have one site crediting for him for appearing in a game more recently, but Shamar Martina well off the squad here. And the other one is Dylan Timber. He is just 25 years old, so he may come back into the picture at some point, but last appeared for the national team in October of 2023. So Dylan Timber seemingly off the squad. So now we only have one definite and one likely candidate. Usually teams bring 5 or 6 players to the cup. So you may be wondering, well, who is actually playing in central defense for them? Well, we can see with the definite candidate that even Jurian Gary is not coded as a central defender, but as a right back, but he has been moved over to this position. So Jurian Gary is 32 years old. He's been with Curacao since 2016 with 46 caps and 1 goal. So one of the long-term players remaining on the squad here. He moved to Al Hazm in Saudi Arabia in 2024, but otherwise was playing in the Netherlands actually for 6 years with Walwijk before that. And he has been part of all 3 squads for the 2017, 2019, and 2021 Gold Cup. Not a starter in 2017, but a starter in 2019, and then, of course, in 2021, they didn't end up playing. Over the recent period, Jurian Gary has started 16 of their 18 games from the start of 2023, and he was subbed in for one, and just one match that he wasn't selected for. So Jury and Gary looking quite definite here. The likely candidate is Roshan van Eijma, and he is 27 years old and has been with Curacao since 2021 with 15 caps and no goals. And he also plays for Walwick in Netherlands since 2024 and was with Oss in the Netherlands before that. He did play for one German team in his career, but otherwise it's Netherlands all the way. He was selected for the 2021 Gold Cup squad, Van Eijma, but they didn't play, of course. And then he started 11 of their 18 games from the start of 2023 and was on the bench for one, but there were 6 matches that he was not selected for. Those were not toward the end, though, so recently he has been selected. So we have Roshan van Eijma as a likely candidate. Well, that's all we have for central defenders. We'll have to wait for part 2 to see what exactly happened, like how they filled the spots when we do a summary of the position. But you can guess from Jury and Gary that it's players coming in from other positions there to play in central defence. Let's move on to the left back position, and we'll see some of those players here. So we begin actually with a likely candidate in Zurich, Carolina. He's not really a starter, but we have him likely to make the squad. I have him coded as a central midfielder because that's the position he started in when he was a starter in the 2019 Gold Cup. But in fact, some sites are now changing him to a left defender, and we'll consider that changing it ourselves after this cup. During this period, though, he only played 2 games. One was as a left defender and the other as a central defender. Nevertheless, we'll tell you soon why we consider him a likely candidate. We're still listing names here even though I got into a few details there. I was just justifying why we have a central midfielder in the left back position. At the possible level, we have Arjani Martha. And then we have a couple of players seemingly off the squad. The first one I introduced in the section 1, and that is Ayrton Statey. Again, last appearing in September of 2022. And we also have Shurandi Sambo. Has yet to appear for the national team, but was on the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup. Right, let's go back and look at the players in more detail then. Zurich, Carolina is 27 years old with 15 caps and 1 goal since 2018. And he's currently playing for a team in Bosnia since 2024. And he was with a couple of teams in Poland before that. He moved to Poland in 2020 and was with teams in the Netherlands before that. So Zurich, Carolina was part of the Gold Cup squad in 2019, but actually not selected for the squad in for the 2021 Gold Cup. And in fact, Carolina returned after a more than 5-year absence in September of 2024 and started 2 of their remaining 6 games and was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for the others. So ever since his return in the fall of 2024, he's been called up consistently, and that is why we have him as a likely candidate. Not much of a starter, though, I should emphasize. The possible candidate, Arjani Martha, is 22 years old with 4 caps since 2024, and he was born in the Netherlands. And Martha plays for Beerschot in Belgium since 2024, but was with Ajax in the Netherlands prior to that. Arjani Martha got his first cap in September 2024 and started 2 of their remaining 6 games. He was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 1 and not selected for 1 match. So again, you may be wondering, well, who is playing in the left back position? Because neither of these have started that many games, but it's something we're going to get into in part two. But again, it's kind of out of position players, which Curacao is renowned for here, or a lot of out of position players. Let's go over to the right back position though, and at least here they have found a right back who looks like he will be the starter, perhaps because we have a little tag on him. The first one, our first candidate is Joshua Brennett, and he is a definite candidate, but we do have a tag on him. We'll talk about it in section 3, but I'll mention it here too when I do the bio. And let's finish introducing the candidates. We have actually Sherelle Floranis and Jurian Gary. Both of those are coded as right backs and do sometimes play as right backs, but we've moved them to different positions for the narrative here. So we've moved Floranis to the versatile defender and Jurian Gary to a central defender. That leaves us with 2 possible candidates here. The first is Justin Ogenia or Ogenia, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And the other one is Tyreek Mercera. Both of those possible candidates, and we don't have any candidates below that level. So let's look at these players in a bit more detail. Joshua Brennett is 31 years old, but only 7 caps and 1 goal since 2024 for Curacao. He actually did play for the Netherlands in 2016. He had 1 cap for the Netherlands, and he scored a goal in it as well. So Joshua Brennett, probably among the candidates where most Caribbean teams are seem to be scraping the files of the teams that they're, or the countries that they're associated with, and finding players that qualify for Curacao, and Joshua Brennett seems among those. Whenever you get a player who's 25 years old or something and getting their first cap for the team, that seems to be what's happening there. Joshua Brennett plays for Al Rayyan in Qatar since 2024, which is significant, and I'll tell you why soon. Otherwise, he's been with Twente in the Netherlands and Hoffenheim in Germany, so quite a good resume. He also played for 6 years with PSV Eindhoven. So in his case, it might be more that he wanted to, or had aspirations for making it to the Netherlands team, and when that didn't pan out, joined Curacao. Joshua Brennett got his first cap in June of 2024 and started 7 of their 8 remaining games, subbing in for the other one. But the note I keep talking about here is the weird comment on one of the sources that I use. It says, no eligibility until June 30th, 2025 Qatar Stars League. So I don't know what that means, unless it means Al Rayyan is playing in the FIFA Club World Cup. That's what it could be. But that thought just struck me, because I would have checked it if I had thought of that before. But that puts a bit of a doubt around him here, Joshua Brennett, and I'll try to find out for part 2 if that's going to affect his participation here. The first of the possible candidates is Justin Ogenia, and he is 26 years old with 8 caps for Curacao since 2022. He plays for Helmond Sports in the Netherlands since 2024, and FC Eindhoven for 4 years prior to that. Ogenia got his first 2 caps in September 2022, and over this period, since the start of 2023, Ogenia has started 4 of their 18 games, as well as subbing in for 2 and being on the bench for 4. However, he was not selected for 8 matches, including the last 6. So Justin Ogenia a bit of a doubt. But then if Brennett is missing, that would probably increase his chances. The other possible candidate is Tyreek Mercera, and he is 22 years old, and quite new to the team since 2024 with just one cap, and he plays for Camber in the Netherlands. So Mercera got his first appearance on the bench in October 2024. Didn't start any of the 4 remaining games to him, but he was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 3 others. So actually, he looks like a bit more likely at this point than Eugenia, and I'm just going to move him up on the list there. And that is right back position. Indeed, that is the defense completed. No, it isn't. We have one general defender who is just coded as a defender. That probably means they don't know much about him. He's at the seemingly off the squad level, though. His name is Brian Anastasia. And I won't give much information on him. He was on the preliminary squad for the 2019 Gold Cup and had appeared for the team since then. He has 11 caps, but hasn't appeared since November 2023. So Brian Anastasia not looking likely at all here. Okay, now we can say the defense is complete, and we move on to the midfield. And here too, we're going to start with a versatile midfielder who is playing all over the midfield, even as a forward during this period. And it is definite candidate Juninho Bacuna, one of the Bacuna brothers there. And we've moved him to versatile midfielder here. He's actually coded as a central midfielder, which isn't wrong. It's just that he plays a lot of other positions as well. So let's look at him, Juninho Bacuna. He's 28 years old with 36 caps and 11 goals for the national team since 2019. And he's playing for Al Wahda in Saudi Arabia since 2024, but was with Birmingham in England before that and Rangers in Scotland. He did play in the Netherlands in his youth. So again, I don't have a note as to whether he was born there or in Curacao. I'll have to specify that in the soccer files. Juninho Bacuna was selected for the squad for the 2021 Gold Cup. But again, they didn't play in that tournament. In qualifying here, Juninho Bacuna scored 5 of their 15 goals, so is a main scorer for them, and quite impressively started all 18 of their games from the start of 2023 in various positions there. So Juninho Bacuna, a definite candidate here. Let's look at defensive midfielders, but we'll talk about the midfield positions briefly here. So Curacao usually has 2 lines of midfielders, and it's most often a 2-player position in 46% of the time, almost half. And you can envision those 2 lines in a 4-2-3-1 formation. So 2 defensive midfielders and 3 more attacking midfielders. There are various other positions, other formations used, but it gets a little bit complex and it's not really worth detailing them. So most of the time we'll be dealing with 2 players, either with this 2-line formation or with, say, a 4-4-2 formation where there's just 1 line and it's 2 more central midfielders. Okay, let's look at the candidates here. So here we have the brother of Juninho Bacuna, Leandro Bacuna. He is also a definite candidate. So that family contributing a lot to the national team. And we also have a definite candidate in Godfried Roemato. Oh my goodness, I should have practiced the name. Roemerato. Okay, a definite candidate. We have 2 likely candidates here, Kevin Falida and Livano Comenencia. Then two possible candidates also, Nathan Markello and Shannon Carmelia. We have players below that level too, and but just one possible but unlikely, Vernon Anita. So I'll deal with his biographical information here. Too, he was actually born in Curacao, actually before the name changed to Curacao, born in Netherlands Antilles. So one of the few players on the team born in Netherlands Antilles. Nevertheless, in 2010, he did play 3 games for Netherlands there. And we're not going to go into detail on him. He was he was selected for the Netherlands preliminary squad for the 2010 World Cup, and basically for the 2012 Euro Cup as well, but never played in a tournament for the Netherlands. For Curacao, his first tournament was the 2021 Gold Cup. So Vernon Anita selected for that squad, even though they were forced to withdraw from the tournament. He started 6 of their games over this period from the start of 2023, but he was not selected for 10 matches, including the last 6 matches. So kind of off the team. And his age is a factor in that. Vernon Anita is 36 years old. So probably more information there than I'll give on other possible but unlikely candidates. But Vernon Anita, a fairly big name for them there. Let's go back and look at the candidates here. We have 6 to go into more detail on. First one is Leandro Bacuna, so a definite candidate who is 34 years old with 58 caps and 15 goals for Curacao since 2016. So Bacuna, I'll always say the first name so as not to mix up the brothers. Leandro Bacuna plays for Groningen in the Netherlands, his second stint with them since 2023. He also played for Watford, but we have a special affinity in the soccer files for Leandro Bacuna because he played for Cardiff in the English League since from 2019 to 22. So I lived in Cardiff until I was 10. My partner for the Teams podcast, Connor, who's my nephew, went over to Wales to study for a year, actually in Swansea, but his affinity is to Cardiff. And so we're very fond of any player who played for Cardiff. He did play for Aston Villa, which is a bigger club in the English league system. Leandro Bacuna was born in the Netherlands and was a starter in the 2017 and 2019 Gold Cups, also selected for the squad in 2021. And Leandro Bacuna started 13 of their 18 games from the start of 2024. Start of 2023, but there were 5 games that he wasn't selected for. Nevertheless, we have Leandro Bacuna as a definite candidate here. The other one, Godfried Roemerato, is 26 years old. I'm just grateful that I said his name a little better there. 28 years old with 15 caps and 1 goal for Curacao since 2023. So actually another late joiner to the club and another player who plays for Walwick in Netherlands. So Roemerato in the Netherlands since 2023. He did actually do a stint in Israel with Hapoel Tel Aviv in Israel for a year in 2022 and 23, but otherwise has been with clubs in the Netherlands his whole time, especially 5 years with Twente in the Netherlands there. Roemerato has started 9 of their 18 games since the beginning of 2023, as well as subbing in for 6 and on the bench for 1. So just 2 matches that he wasn't selected for. So Godfried Roemerato, a definite candidate. The first of the likely candidates is Kevin Valida, and he's 29 years old with 16 caps for the national team since 2021. And yet another player with RKC Walwick in the Netherlands. He's been with them since 2022 and was with Den Bosch in the Netherlands prior to that. He was selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, but of course they didn't play. And since then, he has started 5 of their 18 games from the beginning of 2023, as well as subbing in for 8 and being on the bench for 5. However, Kevin Falida missed 5 of the last 6 matches there. But we nevertheless have him as a likely candidate, perhaps a bit generous there because we've been harsher to other players who have missed games towards the end of this period. But we'll leave him where he is, and we'll see in part 2 whether we were totally misguided. The other likely candidate is Livano Comenencia, and basically he's taken over Falida's spot here. Comenencia is 21 years old with 4 caps for Curacao since 2024. And he plays for Juventus Next Gen in Italy since 2023. And he was with Young PSV in the Netherlands, Young PSV Eindhoven, prior to that. Comenencia was born in the Netherlands. He got his first cap for Curacao in October of 2024 and started 3 of their remaining 4 games, as well as subbing in for the other. So as I said, basically replacing Falida at the end here. So we have him as a likely candidate as well. The first of the possible candidates is Nathan Markello. He is 26 years old with 11 caps for the national team and no goals since 2022. With Curacao since 2022. Born in the Netherlands, but he recently moved to a club in Bulgaria, Hvar in Bulgaria in 2025, and was with Roda in the Netherlands before that. Nathan Markello got his first 2 caps just before the period we're looking at here in September of 2022 were his first 2 caps. And Markello started 7 of their 18 games from the start of 2023. Subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 2 and injured for 1 and not selected for the last 6 matches. So I'm actually seeing we've been fairly inconsistent about how to judge that. We have Markello as a possible candidate here. Maybe we should move Cuca Martino up a notch. But Cuca Martino's age was a factor as well, whereas Fadilla and Markello, the age is not a factor. Okay, the last of the 6 candidates is Shannon Carmelia. He's really the truest veteran on the squad, still playing for them here. Also 36 years old, like 3 players we've done beforehand. However, he was with the team since 2008. With 40 caps and 2 goals. He is playing in the Netherlands now with USV Hercules since 2022. He moved to the Netherlands though in 2008, but played in Netherlands Antilles before it actually was called Curacao. Like that. So I don't actually have whether he was born in Netherlands Antilles, but I suspect he was. Shannon Carmelia was part of the squad for the 2017 and 2019 Gold Cups, really a sub in those 2 tournaments, and also selected for the 2021 squad there. Over the recent period, Carmelia has not started any of their 18 games from the beginning of 2023, but was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 9, including the last 2 matches, although there were 8 matches that he was not selected for. So it seems like he'd never really been a starter, just 40 caps since 2008, as I said, but still active for the team, Shannon Carmelia, and the last of our possible candidates here. So that's a lot of candidates coded as defensive midfielders. So you might guess that some of those are playing in different positions. And we're going to move on to central midfielders here. And not nearly as many candidates. We do have Juninho Bacuna, but we moved him to a versatile midfielder. We also have Juric Carolina, and we moved him to left back. And that leaves us with just one possible candidate here, or one candidate at the possible level, Nicky Soren. And then we have a candidate seemingly off the squad, Roli Bonavacchia. So I'll just deal with him quickly here. Bonavacchia last played for the national team in November of 2023. He was selected only for the Gold Cup in 2019. In fact, he was on the roster there, but not present at the tournament. For the 2017 and 2021 Gold Cups, he was on the preliminary squad, but not selected. So, Roli Bonavacchia, seemingly off the squad here, last played in November 2023. Let's take a look at the one candidate that is more viable then, Nicky Soren. Nicky Soren is 26 years old, just one cap for Curacao since 2024, so new to the team. He plays for Camber in the Netherlands and was born in the Netherlands. So again, I suspect he's someone that they found, by scraping the citizens of Netherlands to see if they have a connection to Curacao. Nicky Soren got his first appearance on the bench in September 2024 and started none of their remaining 6 games, but was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 3, but then not selected for the last 2 matches. So Nicky Soren, just a possible candidate here. Okay, we've done defensive and central midfielders. We kind of consider those positions bleed into each other quite a bit. Let's go to left and right midfielders. And really, we don't have many candidates here, but more just talking about the position. So really, classically, it's used in a 4-3-3 formation. But for most teams, that's kind of going out of style. And even the coding of players as left and right midfielders going out of fashion. Don't want to get into a long discussion about that. Curacao only used a 3-man midfield once in this period. It wasn't in the 4-3-3 formation, but a 4-5-1 formation. However, as is increasingly the case, it's a defensive midfielder covering the position, actually on one side a defensive, on the other side a central midfielder in that 4-5-1 formation. And then we don't have any candidates to talk about here. There is one we moved on the right side, but first I'll introduce the one candidate we have on the left side, seemingly off the squad, Michael Maria. So we talked about him in section 1, and again, I'm not sure what his recent involvement is here because my sources disagree. But anyway, we have him playing his last game in 2022. And if that's wrong, we'll update it in part 2. So Michael Maria, the only candidate there. For right midfielders, we do have newcomer Livano Comenencia. He's coded as a right midfielder, but we moved him to defensive midfield because that's where he played most of his games in this period. And the only candidate left on our list then is Shermaine Martina, who is seemingly off the squad and last appeared for the national team in June of 2023. He was a starter in the 2019 Gold Cup, but not selected for the 2021 version, but did stay on the team for a bit after, but unseen since June of 2023. So no candidates there that seem viable options. Let's go upfield and talk about attacking midfielders. So we don't have any versatile attackers, even though there are players playing in various positions here. We didn't feel the need to kind of separate one. So we'll go right to left attackers. This is kind of a category that Soccer Files has created for ourselves. We've come to see the left and right attacking positions as dependent on the formation, but often filled by the same players. So with a 4-4-2 formation, it would be an attacking winger. That's what Curacao started with in this period. It could be an attacking midfielder in the 4-2-3-1 formation, and for Curacao, it is mostly that. And for well, it could be a left forward in the 4-3-3 formation, but Curacao didn't use that in this position. So for the most part, think of it as a left attacking and right attacking midfielder in a 4-2-3-1 formation. Okay, let's go to the candidates. And here we have Kenji Gore, actually coded as a forward, but we've moved him over here because this is where he's been playing during the period. Kenji Gore, a definite candidate. No candidates at the likely level, but 2 at the possible level. The first one is Jeremy Antonis, and the other Ravian Rosario. And then we have one player seemingly off the squad. That is Nigel Thomas. And Nigel Thomas last appeared, actually selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, despite the fact that he hadn't made an appearance for the national team and still hasn't made an appearance for the national team, Nigel Thomas. Let's go and look in more detail at the more likely candidates then. Kenji Gore, actually son of the interim manager Dean Gore, who we introduced in the first category of managers. But Kenji Gore is a very important player, probably bigger for Curacao than his interim manager father is. Kenji Gore has been, is 31 years old and has been with the team since 2019 with 27 caps and 3 goals. And he's playing for a team in Qatar also, just like the right back we talked about earlier. Kenji Gore plays for Salah in Qatar since 2023 and has a pretty good resume there. Boa Vista and Nacional in Portugal before that, and then Swansea in the English League from 2013 to 18. He was also with Manchester United and Manchester City youth clubs there. Kenji Gore was first selected for the 2019 Gold Cup as far as tournaments goes. He was actually just a sub in that tournament. He was also selected for the Gold Cup squad in 2021. No longer a sub for them, though. He started 13 of their 18 games from the start of 2023, as well as subbing in for 1. So just 4 matches that Kenji Gore, it might be, I think it is pronounced Kenji Gore, actually. Sorry about that. Kenji Gore, a definite candidate here. As we said, no likely candidate, so we jump down to the possible level. And we begin with Jeremy Antonis, and he is 23 years old and has 13 caps and 1 goal for the national team since 2021. He also has been with the team in Portugal, Morense in Portugal since 2023, and PSV Eindhoven before that, Jeremy Antonis. He started only 4 of their 14 games, and those 4 starts, well, at least 3 of them were in different positions. I'm a bit doubtful of the information we have for the 4th one. But get this, he's started as a left attacking midfielder, which he's coded as here, but also as a forward and a central defender. So Jeremy Antonis, not really tied to one position here. So started 4 of their 18 games from the start of 2023, subbed in for 4 and not selected for 10 matches. But we keep him as a possible candidate because he was called up for the last 4 matches. So Jeremy Antonis, a possible candidate. Ravian Rosero is 21 years old with just 2 caps since 2024, no goals. And he was actually born in Curacao, but he does play for teams in the Netherlands, Excelsior since 2024 and Sparta Rotterdam for a year before that. Rosario got his first cap for Curacao in June of 2024. Didn't start any games, any of their remaining 8 games since he started, but was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 1. However, there were 5 matches he wasn't selected for, including the last 3. So Ravian Rosario, a possible candidate. Okay, in part 2, we'll talk about who has been occupying the position, but we're going to forge on just focused on candidates here and move over to the other side of the field, right attackers. And here, one of the few situations where we actually have the coded player dominating the position. We have a definite candidate here in Jural Margarita. We also have 2 likely candidates, Brandley Kuas and Joshua Zimmerman. And then we have a possible candidate in Xander Severina there. And then the player we talked about in part 1, kind of the veteran, Gevaro Nepomuceno, seemingly off the squad. So we won't repeat everything we said there. He is still active at the club level, but last appeared for Curacao in June of 2023. So Nepomuceno seemingly off the squad here. Also in the same category, Tahith Chong. Tahith Chong, he plays for Luton in England. And I'm not really sure what his involvement is. He was selected for the preliminary squad in 2021. And I think that's it. I don't think he's been called up since then. He doesn't have any caps for the national team. So we'll have to see whether Tahith Chong kind of comes back into the picture. But his club resume is actually quite good. He was with Manchester United in England from 2019 to 2022. I'm familiar with him with that Premier League experience. Okay, let's look at the candidates that seem more likely, though. Going back to the definite Juro Margarita, and he is 25 years old, with 10 caps and 4 goals for Curacao since 2023. And he's currently playing in the USA for Phoenix Rising since 2024, but was with the club in Azerbaijan, Sabah in Azerbaijan, for a year before that, and then in the Netherlands prior to that. And he also is one of their top scorers in qualifying here, responsible for 4 of their 15 goals. And all of them in the same game. It was a 5-0 win over Saint Martin. Actually, Saint Martin, the English side of the island there. Jura Margarita had appeared on the bench before this period, 2 appearances in June of 2022, but then was off the team for 15 months and returned in September 2023 to start 9 of their 14 games, as well as subbing in for 1 and on the bench for 2. The only 2 games he wasn't called up for were because of injury, 2 matches there. So Jura Margarita, a definite candidate. The first of 2 likely candidates is Brandley Kuas. And Brandley Kuas is 33 years old with 29 caps and 2 goals since 2017 for Curacao. And he plays for Volendam in the Netherlands since 2024, but was with clubs in Turkey, Israel, and UAE prior to that. Left the Netherlands in 2019, playing up until that time with Netherlands clubs. Brandley Kuas was not selected for the 2019 Gold Cup, but on the preliminary squad. He was selected in 2021, although they didn't play, and he has started 9 of their 18 games since the start of 2023, as well as subbing in for 2 and on the bench for 3. So just 4 matches that Brandley Kuwas was not selected for. So a likely candidate here. The second candidate at the likely level is Joshua Zimmerman. He is 24 years old with 9 caps and 1 goal for Curacao since 2022, and he plays for Os in the Netherlands since 2023. He started none of their 18 games from the start of 2023, but he was subbed in for 8 and on the bench for 2. But not selected for 8 other matches. He was called up, though, for the last 6 matches. So we consider Joshua Zimmerman a likely candidate here. The one player at the possible level is Xander Severina, and he is 24 years old. 5 caps and 1 goal for the national team since 2023, and he plays for Maccabi Haifa in Israel since 2024, and with Partizan in Serbia for a year before that. Severino was born in the Netherlands and got his first appearance on the bench in March of 2023 and started 3 of their remaining 18 games. As well as subbing in for 2 and on the bench for 3. Severino was injured for 2 games and not selected for 8 others. And I think some of those were in the last couple of games there. So Xander Severina, a possible candidate here. Okay, that is it for the right attackers. We'll move on to our last attacking midfield category, which is central attacking midfield. This position was used in about 1/3 of the games, particularly in the fall of the 2024 Nations League group stage games, where they used a 4-2-3-1 formation, I think in 5 of those 6 games there. However, we don't have any top candidates here. And I can just tell you mostly it's Juninho Bacuna in this position, the versatile midfielder we introduced. But we will kind of go over the positions in part 2 and tell you who's been playing them. So the candidates here are at the possible but unlikely level, or the first one is at least, and that is Jason Vicario. And he was not selected for the last 4 matches and hadn't started any of their games. So, sorry, I think I said Jason, but it's Jaron Vicario, possible but unlikely there. The other one is Elson Hui, and he is seemingly off the squad. So a veteran for Curacao since 2015. He was with the team since 2015 and was part of all 3 of their Gold Cup campaigns there. No, wait, he was on a starter in the 2017 and 2019 Gold Cups, but last appeared on the bench in November of 2023. So I'm giving a bit too much information for a player seemingly off the squad, but a bit of a veteran there. One other player seemingly off the squad is Regino Sicilia. That could be Regino there, and he has had no recent involvement, but was selected for the preliminary squad in 2021. So Regino Sicilia, very unlikely here, or seemingly off the squad. Okay, so again, no candidates who are very active as central attacking midfielder, and Juninho Bacuna going to be the main guy here when we look at the position in part 2. Okay, let's move on to the forward line, and we have no candidates at the secondary striker position. It's a position that they've not used in their formations either. So let's go straight to forwards and talk about the position a little bit before we look at the players. I think I said in section 1 that it's a one-man forward line in 80% of the games in this period. And so 20% of the games, there are 2 forwards in the position, and we don't have a formation where they have 3 forwards like a 4-3-3 or anything. Going to the candidates, we do have Kenji Gore, who is coded as a forward, but we dealt with him as a left attacking midfielder there. So the first candidate in this list is Rangelo Janga, and he's a definite candidate. And we have a likely candidate in Gervain Castanier. And that's really it in terms of players likely to make the squad. But we do have two players at the possible but unlikely level. So we'll deal with their what bio information we give as they go. The first one is Jurgen Locadia. Jurgen Locadia didn't start. He did start two of their games during the period, but not selected for 9 matches. I'm guessing those were towards the end, or a lot of them were, and that's why we have him at the possible but unlikely level here. The other one is Gino Van Kessel, and he is still playing club soccer, but hasn't played for the national team since September of 2022. And even then, when he came back in September 2022, he had come back after a 3-year absence. So he was part of the 2017 and 2019 Gold Cup squads, but seems well off the team now. Gino Van Kessel, but we still have him as a possible but unlikely candidate there. And we have one player who's seemingly off the squad, Jafar Arias. Jafar Arias was part of the 2019 Gold Cup squad, not selected in 2021 there, but has played with the team since, last appearing in November 2023. So Jafar Arias seemingly off the squad, and we will give more information on these players if they're selected for the final squad, but right now he seems to be off the squad. Let's go back then and look at the really the two viable candidates here. The first one is Rangelo Janga, and he has a very impressive scoring record for Curacao, 43 caps and 21 goals, so almost a 0.5 scoring ratio. Janga is 33 years old and has been with Curacao since 2016. And I think he's the third player we have associated with FC Eindhoven. Again, that's not PSV Eindhoven, the bigger club, but FC Eindhoven since 2024. And he's a bit of a globetrotter, having played in Cyprus, Romania, Kazakhstan, Switzerland and Belgium. I think I could go on, but I'll stop there. Rangelo Janga was part of the 2017 Gold Cup squad, but not the 2019 Gold Cup squad, despite being the top scorer with 6 of their 2020 goal. Oh my goodness, 6 of their 22 goals in qualifying for the 2019 Gold Cup, but he didn't make the final cut, having been on the preliminary squad, and I couldn't find a reason as to why he wasn't selected. But he was in 2021 for the squad. Recently, Rangelo Janga has started 11 of their 18 games from the start of 2023, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1. He was injured for the last 3 matches, although he has since recovered there. So just 2 matches that Rangelo Janga was not selected for. I'm still curious as to why he didn't make the squad in 2019 Gold Cup. Anyway, a definite candidate for this cup, Rangelo Janga. The likely candidate is Gervain Castanier, and he is 29 years old with 17 caps and 5 goals for Curacao since 2018. And he plays for a club in Indonesia, Persib Bandung in Indonesia since 2025, and was with Castellon in Spain for 2 years before that. He's also played in England and Germany, Gervain Castanier. And even though he was around as far back as the 2017 Gold Cup, he was named to the preliminary squad despite never having appeared for the team. Didn't make the final cut there in 2017. He did make the final squad in 2019, Castaneer, but he was injured before the tournament and replaced. And then he did make the squad in 2021. But through all that, has yet to actually play in a tournament, Gervain Castaneer. Over the recent period, he has started 3 of their 18 games from the start of 2023, as well as subbing in for 5 and was on the bench for 2, but not selected for 8 matches. However, he was called up for the last 8 matches, so we consider him a likely candidate for the squad here. So that brings us to the end of section 2 and our look at the candidates for the squad, and we move to section 3. And in doing so, welcome new listeners who are just listening to the short version of part 1 on Curacao's players. So I'll speak to those people. In the full version, we introduce the candidates and their likelihood of making the final squad. And we gave a little bio information on the more likely candidates to make the squad. So if you are looking for more information on the players here, you can go to the full version. We've included a link to that in the show notes. And in that, you'll also get the reasons for us putting them in the categories that we did. For those who have listened to that, it's full version. This is a review summary. We're not concerning ourselves here with predicting starters, but we're going to do that in part 2, as well as summarizing the position and who has been filling the position over the last little while. But we're going back here in to the beginning of section 2 and the candidates. So we have manager Dick Advocat leading them through the tournament. For goalkeepers, we have a definite candidate in Eloy Room and likely candidates, 2 of them, Trevor Dornsbush and Nino Fancito. And then we have a possible candidate in Tyrick Bodak. And let's go on to defenders. We did categorize one player as a versatile defender because he's been appearing in various positions in the defense over the period we were looking at, and that is Sherrell Floranis. He's coded as a right back, but has been playing in various positions there. We think he's a definite candidate. And then the central defenders, we have a definite candidate in Jurian Gary. He's actually coded as a right back, but been playing more as a centre back in this period. And he's definite, and likely candidate Roshan Van Eijma. And that's it. We only have 2 central defenders, so obviously it's out of position players really filling in the gaps there. Over in the left back position, we have no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Jurij Carolina. He's coded as a central midfielder, but some sources code him as a left back, and his only 2 games here were as a left back and a central defender in this period. So nevertheless, a likely candidate, Jurij Carolina, and Orjani Martha, a possible candidate here. We won't go into the names of players at the possible but unlikely level or the seemingly off the squad level. On the right back, we have Joshua Brennett, and we're going to talk about a kind of a concern as to whether he'll participate shortly after this section. Anyway, for now, we have him as a definite candidate, and then 2 players at the possible level, Tyreek Mercera and Justin Ojenia, both possible candidates. Going on to the midfielder, we also categorize one player as a versatile midfielder, not only playing all over the midfield, but even as a forward, and that's Juninho Bacuna. Actually coded as a central midfielder, but quite versatile in this period, and he is a definite candidate. For defensive midfielders, we have 2 definite candidates, the brother of Juninho Bacuna, Leandro Bacuna, along with Godfried Roemerato, both of those definite candidates. Likely candidate, two of them also, Kevin Valida and Livano Comenencia. And also two possible candidates here, Nathan Markello and Shannon Carmelia. I will mention the possible but unlikely Vernon Anita there because he's a big name for the team, but as I say, possible but unlikely for this tournament. Central midfielders, we have none at the definite or likely level, just one at the possible level, and that is Nicky Surin. Left and right midfielders, we have no candidates coded there. We did have one, but we've moved him to elsewhere, and I won't get into it. So we're ready to move on to attacking midfielders. No versatile attackers here. We left them in the positions. We do have a definite candidate as a left attacker, and that is Kenji Gore. He's actually coded as a forward, but has been playing mostly as a left attacking midfielder here and sometimes as a left attacking winger during this period. No candidates at the likely level for left attacker, but two possible candidates in Jeremy Antonis and Ravian Rosario. Moving over to the right attacking part of the field, actually players are playing in their coded positions here. Most sources code them as right wingers, but we see them as right attackers. A definite candidate in Jurel Margaritha, and then two likely candidates in Brandley Kuas and Joshua Zimmerman, and also a possible candidate in Xander Severina. Players to choose from, at least in that part of the squad. And I want to mention a couple of players seemingly off the squad. Javero Nepomuceno, veteran for the club, and then Tahith Chong, pretty good club affiliations, but doesn't seem to be playing for Curacao. There. Central attacking midfield, they do use the position. It's mostly Juninho Bacuna there, but we have no players coded at the definite, likely, or possible level over here. But as I say, in about a third of games, they do use that position. They do not use the secondary striker position, nor do we have any players coded that way. So we move on to the last category of forwards. We have a definite candidate in Rangelo Janga and a likely candidate in Gervain Castanier there. And I'll mention the possible but unlikely Gino Van Kessel as well, because I wouldn't be surprised to see him coming back. Okay, that is our review of candidates. Let's take a review of injuries, or actually some of this is new information. The forward we just mentioned, Rangelo Janga, was actually out of the last three games. Those were the last October 2024 game and the 2 November 2024 games. But I will report here that he is recovered from that injury. It was a meniscus injury from mid-October to mid-January, but he is back playing with his club, and that should not interfere with his participation here. We have him as a definite candidate. Also a definite candidate is Joshua Brennett, and his situation is unknown right now. There's a kind of a strange tag on him on the one website, the main website I use for this information. It says no eligibility until June 30th, 2025, Qatar Stars League. He plays in Qatar for Al Rayyan, and so we're wondering if this is going to prevent him. We're going to look into that and give hopefully more clear information when we get to part 2. Okay, we will get to part 2 pretty quick. We'll preview it. Just closing thoughts on on Curacao. I think most of their players not only play in the Netherlands but were born there. excuse me, and as a result, they really just come over for important games. Curacao doesn't play a lot of friendlies. I don't think this matters much because I think coming over and playing for the Gold Cup will be a good event for a lot of these players. So especially for the big teams who are wondering if they're going to send their best. But apart from Joshua Brennett there, we do expect Curacao to be sending their best. Let's move on to the last order of business, previewing part 2. So when we get to part 2, that'll be after the preliminary and final squads are published. So we'll go through the list again here that we've created here and tell you who made it and who didn't. We'll emphasize any notable non-selections and any surprise inclusions or new players. There's always a few of those. So if we didn't give bio information on for example, a possible but unlikely candidate that ends up being selected, we'll do that in part 2 and let you know a bit about them. And then updates on injuries, especially the one we just said. Joshua Brennett, hopefully provide more clear information on that and any new injuries that become a factor between now and the beginning of part 2 in early June. So that brings us to the end of our look at Curacao. Part 1, the candidates, and we look forward to seeing you in part 2. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.